Okay, I'll begin. Are there questions?
So, can you open the last lecture's notes?
Okay, just a minute. It's probably this one. No. I think it's this one. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, around page 7. The equation for, yeah, this one. Yeah. So, when we are saying that ddt of n1s contains, like, there's a probability p that the photon that is emitted in the decay of 2p states
Yes.
that does not hit the 1s states.
Yes.
And there's a 1 minus p probability that it hits 1s states.
Yes.
So, and if it hits that 1s states, that will make 2p states again, and they should decay because that is a non-equilibrium contribution, and that has to decay.
Yes.
So that contribution should be present in the equation for NE, right? Because
Yeah.
when
But
it
that is okay. The reason that that is automatically present is because this is saying that the particular decay that actually makes it come back, right? That is not counted at all in this equation, right? So when you write down the corresponding equation for the 2s state, right, which I have not written down because by conservation law it follows from here, right? That 2s state will also have this p.
Yeah, I'm not asking about that. I'm asking about, I mean, when they are when the 2s states are formed, because 2p states are formed because of transition of 1s states, uh,
Yes.
they are sort of providing some non-equilibrium contribution, and they should decompose like into electrons and protons.
Yeah.
And if that happens, then electrons electrons are formed, and those electrons.
Yeah. Okay. Let me put it this way, right? That this transition has already taken you out of equilibrium because once that a 2p has gone into 1s, right? That is not part of the equilibrium condition. And what you are saying now is that it comes back, right? It gets hit back and comes back to the 2p state, right? And the way we are formulating it here, okay, it's as if that transition never happened. That suppose you make a 2p to 1s transition, and that 1s gets hit by a photon and can comes back to 2p, then you pretend that as if that transition never happened. Right? That's with probability 1 minus p. And then, I mean, it's continuously being readjusted into thermal equilibrium because NNL states are all adjusted among themselves, okay, so that they follow the thermal distribution. Okay, that's why we have parameterized only by N2S. All the NNLs are determined in terms of N2S by the thermal equilibrium formula. Right? So I think what you are saying that the return of the 2p state actually destroys thermal equilibrium. You should have asked it at the beginning itself, right? That when 2p state is decaying into 1s, you are losing one 2p state, right? So what happens to that? And that fact that that automatically gets adjusted in the thermal ensemble is encoded in the fact that once N2S is given, right, or N2p is given, then everything else is automatically adjusted so as to keep the total number fixed, right? Because that number is determined by the total number of electrons. So total number is fixed, and among themselves, the adjustment is taking place continuously by thermalization. Does that?
So can you say it again? I was disconnected.
Okay, yeah. So what I'm saying is that you are saying that, okay, you make a transition from 2p to 2s, and then some of the 2s comes back to 2p. Do you have to take it?
1s back to 2p.
Sorry, yeah, 1s back to 2p. And you're asking whether that, the fact that it upsets thermal equilibrium, whether that should be taken into account.
Yeah.
Right? But the fact that, okay, it's always in thermal equilibrium, right? Once suppose you increase the number of 2p states a little bit, okay, then what's going to happen? What's going to happen is that it's this all the NL states are adjusted among themselves using the thermal equilibrium formula, right?
And they could also disintegrate, right?
They could also disintegrate, certainly, right? That part is also in this, right? See, you see there is an N2S appearing here.
Yeah, but that contains only the value of thermal equilibrium, number of 2s states in thermal equilibrium.
Yes, and it is also automatically, we're assuming that once that 2s comes, 1s comes to 2p, right? That system automatically comes into thermal equilibrium very fast, right? So any extra 2p will readjust itself, distribute itself among the whole NL states, so the thermal equilibrium formula holds.
Yeah, but like, okay.
See what? Okay, I mean, if you're worried about this, then you should have worried even before that once the 2p state goes into 2s,
Yeah.
right? You are reducing the number of 2p states, right? So
Okay,
why is it that? Why doesn't that destroy thermal equilibrium? And the point is, of course, it does destroy thermal equilibrium, but you are assuming that as soon as that happens, the whole spectrum, the NL spectrum, adjust themselves so that they come back to thermal equilibrium. And then the fact that they can make transition into the unbound state, right? That's part of this equation.
Okay.
Right? So that's the point. So the point is, if you take put a state, if you put a particle at a very highly excited state, then that destroys thermal equilibrium in a big way, right? Because the very highly excited states are supposed to be very sparsely populated. But if you put it in a 2p state, okay, that effect is mild, and so you can just take into account by saying that the system instantly thermalizes. So it's
Okay. Yeah.
highly populated state. If you highly sparse states, right? If you put some extra state there, that you may not be able to take into account by invoking thermal equilibrium because it may not equilibrate very fast, right? And that's what happens. That if you take a 1s state and take a photon almost of energy almost equal to 13.6 electron volt and put it at the top of the spectrum, then that gets kicked out, okay, because their actual occupancy there is supposed to be very small, right?
Yeah.
And so if you put it there, that gets kicked out by thermal photon, right? It basically gets removed immediately. But if you put something in a low lying state, right, 2s or 2p, then it's a small change. And indeed, I mean, you are assuming that the system adjusts itself. Right? So there are some small changes in all the higher NNLs, right? A very fractional change because their number increases by e to the minus this B2s minus B3s by T, etc. Right? So those the fractions are very small anyway. So one extra state in 2p will cause very little change in the high excited states. But it will, of course, by thermal equilibrium, it will get distributed among the 2p and 2s states, right? Which certainly will happen. And that's what we are assuming, that that's part of this assumption that the system instantly thermalizes. That is, all the NL states for n larger than or equal to 2 instantly thermalizes. And so that's why you are using only one variable here.
Okay. Yeah.
But what I'm saying is this effect that you are talking about is already encoded. I mean, you should have then asked it even before, right? That once the 2p makes transition to 2s. Okay, here the way we are setting up the equation that anything, if 2p makes transition to 2s and then it comes back to 2p again, we just don't include it in that equation. Right? That's why this p is a probability that it doesn't come back.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other question? Okay, so let me begin. Okay, so let me then first review the what we have gotten so far. Okay, and so that will also tell us what remains to be done. So we introduced Ne, which is the number density of electrons, of free electrons. Then we have N1s, this is the number density of 1s atoms. And NNL is the number density of NL atoms. And we assume that the system for n larger than or equal to 2 is in thermal equilibrium. So NNL is given by N2s times 2L plus 1 times exponential minus P2 minus Bn. Okay, so I'm dropping the label L from B because the spectrum depends only on N and not on L. Okay, so I have written just B2 minus Bn. So this can be used to calculate sum over NL with N greater than or equal to 2 and L, NNL. So basically, because of this proportionality factor N2s, we can write this as N2s times some function of T, where this function of T is basically the sum over this part. Okay, if you take this part and then sum over N and L, that's what we are calling f of T. So let me write this in here. So this f of T is sum over NL, N greater than or equal to 2, 2L plus 1. And then we have the energy the number conservation equation. So Ne plus N1s plus N2s times f of T, okay, which is this total number. So this should be equal to the total electron density, okay, and that you know is 0.73 times Nb. Okay, and this number is conserved in the sense that Nb lambda cube is remains constant. And we also said that for T much less than B2 minus B3, right? B2 minus f of T is almost equal to 4. Okay, so for most purpose, we can just set f of T equal to 4, but we'll just keep f of T as it is. We also then introduce the ratios x, which was Ne over 0.73 Nb, y, which was N1s over 0.73 Nb, and then N2s, okay, with this, after you use this conservation law, N2s will be given by 0.73 Nb times 1 minus x minus y over this f of T. So then we also set up some differential equations. So let me remind you what those were. So we wrote down the equation for dx dt. Okay, this turned out to be minus alpha x square times 0.73 Nb. Okay, this is the rate at which it forms atoms, and then the rate at which it comes back. So that was beta over f of T times 1 minus x minus y. Okay, so this basically counts the number of NNL atoms or N2s, right? And that's why you see this 1 over f of T sitting here. Okay, because this combination is N2s times 0.73 Nb. Then we have dy dt. Okay, this is the population of the 1s atoms, and that's given by gamma 2s plus 3 gamma 2p times p. I'll remind you of the various constants in a few minutes. So alpha was given by sigma v, where sigma is the E minus P capture cross section into NL state for n greater than or equal to 2. Okay, because we argued that direct transition to 1s state has really no effect because that gamma is going to kick out an electron out of the 1s state. Okay, which will eventually end up being a free electron. Beta was given in terms of alpha, and that we found by the detailed valence equation. So beta was alpha times MET over 2 pi to the power 3 by 2 e to the power minus b2 over t. And E, okay, gamma 2s and gamma 2p. Okay, maybe I should write it here. So gamma 2s is the decay probability, decay rate of 2s to 1s plus a pair of photons, right? This requires a pair of photons. And gamma 2p is the decay rate of 2p to 1s plus gamma. So, and E was given in terms of this gamma 2s plus 3 gamma 2p times p bar times e to the power minus b1 minus b2 by t. So in all these, okay, p and p bar I'm going to explain in a few minutes. So in all this, you can see that alpha, beta, sorry, not alpha, gamma 2s and gamma 2p, they can be calculated microscopically, okay, by doing appropriate quantum mechanics. Calculated using microscopic theory. Or they can be measured or measured. So what remains to be determined in this whole set of formulae are P and P bar. Okay, so I'll now remind you what P and P bar were, and then we'll start calculating this P and P bar. But I should also note at this stage that P bar is not really very important because you see that this comes in the expression for E, right? And E is very, very small, right? It's B1 minus B2 by T at the kind of temperature that you're looking at. This number is very, very small. Okay. So that basically says that this dy dt, which is the rate of change of population of the 1s states, okay, is essentially controlled by the formation. Right? It's very unlikely that once it forms, okay, it will be making a transition into 2s state by a thermal photon. Okay, so this is the transition rate by thermal photon. Okay, that's why you have this factor over here. Okay. So this you can more or less ignore in running the differential equation, but I will keep it as it is. And that's the reason why P bar is not very important, okay, even though we'll calculate it. But P certainly is important because this is part of the expression that contains the production rate. Okay, are there questions? Okay, so let me remind you what P and P bar were, and then we'll start calculating them. So P of T is the probability that a Lyman alpha photon produced at time t. I think yesterday there was an issue of question of whether these are time dependent, and indeed they are, right? So today I have written the time algorithm explicitly, so there's a confusion. Produced at time t is not captured by a 1s to 2p transition. And p bar of t is the fraction of thermal photons. Okay, this I'll define more carefully later. Okay, a fraction of thermal photons. Okay, thermal photons of which frequency? That's one relevant question. Anyways, but as I said, this I'll define later. But it's roughly the fraction of thermal photons, okay, near Lyman alpha, that survive capture up to time t. Okay, because that is what is relevant for, that's what goes into this formula. Okay, because we are talking about the transition rate back at time t. Okay, so what's important is how many such thermal photons are there in the spectrum at this time. Okay. So with this, we'll begin by calculating P of t. Okay. But for this, we need some preliminaries. Okay, and that's essentially this Bright-Wigner distribution that will denote by P omega d omega, will denote the probability that a photon emitted during 2p to 1s transition has energy in the range omega and omega plus d omega. Okay, and there's a formula for this, which is the known as the Bright-Wigner formula. In fact, we'll use the non-relativistic version of the Bright-Wigner formula. So this is given by gamma p over 2 pi times 1 over 1 minus, omega minus omega alpha square plus gamma p over 2 whole square. Okay, you can easily verify that the integral p omega d omega is 1. So you're integrated from minus infinity to infinity. We can argue that, okay, why not from 0 to infinity, because omega cannot be negative. Okay. But the point is that this is very sharply peaked around omega alpha. Okay. Because gamma p, okay, maybe I should write, gamma p in fact is much smaller than omega alpha. Okay, so it's a sharply peaked. So the contribution to this integral, okay, essentially comes from a very small range around omega alpha. Okay. So the width of the distribution is like gamma p. Okay. And this also fits with the uncertainty principle. Okay. Because if you remember, gamma p was the rate of decay of a 2p atom into 1s state, 1s atom. So that means that the half-life of a 2p state is like 1 over gamma p, is proportional to 1 over gamma p. And now if you use uncertainty principle, then that tells us that the energy uncertainty should be of order gamma p. Right? So the 2p state, the energy of the 2p state has an uncertainty which is of the order of gamma p. And that's the reason why there's a distribution. Instead of having omega come out sharply with a frequency omega alpha, which is the energy of a Lyman, the central energy of the Lyman alpha photon, it has a distribution of width gamma p. Okay, so this is like the uncertainty in the energy of the Lyman alpha photon.
So this gamma p is just a symbol, right?
That's the symbol. No, it's a number.
I mean, it's not related to the gamma 2p we are writing.
No, yes, it is. Okay. No, it's gamma 2p. Sorry, I should have written gamma 2p. It is the same. It is the gamma 2p. Right? Gamma 2p was the decay rate of the 2p state, right? So the lifetime of a 2p state is like 1 over gamma 2p up to some constant of proportionality. So you expect an energy uncertainty of the 2p state to be gamma 2p, and hence the Lyman alpha line that comes from the 2p to 1s transition. 1s of course is sharp, that's stable. So the energy, so the uncertainty in the energy of the photon that comes from the 2p to 1s transition is precisely gamma 2p, right? And this formula encodes that. So this is the same gamma 2p that we wrote earlier. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. So this is what is called the Bright-Wigner formula, right? As I said, Bright-Wigner formula is the relativistic version is a little more general, but for us it's good enough. Okay. When the width is small compared to omega alpha, okay, then this is the version of the formula that we can use, and that is indeed the case for Lyman alpha. And we are going to use that. We are going to make various approximations where we will use the fact that this is sharply distributed, sharply peaked around gamma 2p. So the another quantity that will enter our calculation is sigma omega. So this is defined to be the absorption cross section of a photon of energy omega by 1s state to make transition to 2p state. So again, if the 2p state was sharp, then sigma omega will be non-zero only for a particular value of omega, namely omega equal to omega alpha, because by energy conservation. But because the 2p state has energy uncertainty, okay, sigma omega has a distribution, okay, and in fact that distribution, okay, whatever sigma omega is related to p omega, okay, that we introduced earlier. And the physics is essentially that it's related by crossing, right? Because here you are talking about a transition from 2p state to 1s state plus a photon. This is a reverse process, right? 1s state plus a photon going into 2p state. So the matrix element that enters this formula is the same. It's the kinematics is different. It's a reverse process. So just like in QFT, you have seen that the crossing basically gives the S matrix the same, okay, except that when you actually try to derive the cross section from there, okay, the formulae are slightly different because the initial and the final states contribute slightly differently in the formula for the cross section or the probabilities. But it's clear that the sigma omega should be related to p omega. Okay, and in fact, there is a relation, universal relation. So let me write this down. So sigma omega is given by the following formula: 3 pi square over omega alpha square times gamma 2p times p omega. Okay, so this is also a formula that we're going to use. again, you can see that this is sharp, this is peak turn omega equal to omega alpha, but it's not a delta function. Okay, and the reason that it's not a delta function is because of the energy uncertainty. Okay, so the same physics controls both this formula, okay, the expression for sigma omega and also the expression for p omega. Okay, so now we are ready to start doing some actual calculation towards p.
Sir, is this because the universe is expanding?
So this formula is a static formula. It's a normal quantum mechanics, right? In neither this formula nor the other one, you have used any expanding universe, right? That if you do an experimental lab, you will find this relation. That if you look at the spectrum of light coming out from the 2p to 1s transition, you will see that the light doesn't have a sharp energy, okay, or a sharp frequency. There is a distribution, and that's a Breit-Wigner distribution. Okay, so that's something that you can experimentally measure in a lab without worrying about the expansion of the universe. And similarly, if you do an absorption experiment, you will find that the photons are absorbed with a cross section that is given by this formula over here. So the absorption cross section falls off for omega far away from omega alpha and peaks at omega equal to omega alpha.
Okay, sir.
So this is not related to expansion of the universe as yet. Okay, but you are going to have to fold in with the expansion of the universe soon. Okay, so now let's ask the following question. So suppose a photon is produced. Suppose a photon of frequency omega or of energy omega is produced at time t. We want to calculate the total probability that it is absorbed, it is absorbed between t prime and t prime plus dt prime, assuming this is a conditional probability that it survives till t prime. Okay, of course, if it gets absorbed before t prime, then there is nothing to ask here, right? So total probability that it is absorbed between t prime and t prime plus dt prime, assuming that it survives till t prime. So that will be given by the cross section, okay, the absorption cross section times the density of electrons, 1s electrons, because that's what is absorbing the photon, times the relative speed, but that's the velocity of light in this case, right? So c is equal to 1. So sigma, the energy that we'll use, right, and that's where this information comes in. This information comes in. The energy that you are going to use is omega times lambda t over lambda t prime. Then n1s of t prime. And then c times dt prime. C is the velocity of light, which is of course 1. Okay. So this scaling is important. Okay. This is telling us that if the photon is emitted with frequency omega, okay, then by time t prime, okay, its energy has gotten scaled by this ratio lambda t over lambda t prime because of the expansion of the universe. Okay, so the photon is losing energy. Okay, and here I may also add that the photon could of course also lose energy by scattering with free electrons. Okay. But as you have seen that even if no atom formation has taken place, the energy that it loses by scattering with free electrons is small. In 1 Hubble time, it loses a small amount of energy, small fraction of t, and that's the reason why it's out of equilibrium. So most of the energy loss is coming from the expansion of the universe. Okay, the energy loss due to scattering from other electrons is negligible, and that's why you have ignored this. Okay? And you have used the fact that energy loss is coming essentially because of the expansion of the universe. And this is going to be important. We'll see also it in the final formula, that if there is no energy loss, okay, if it was a static case, then of course eventually this photon will get absorbed. The only reason that there is a non-zero probability that the photon will actually survive till infinity is because it's losing energy in that process. Okay, and once the energy falls below a certain value, okay, then it becomes highly unlikely that it will get absorbed by a 1s electron, because the absorption probability will fall. Okay? So that is the physics. So the expansion of the universe is important. Okay? So this fact that the argument gets replaced by this is important. Okay, are there questions? So one more definition. So we define Q to be the probability that a photon of frequency of energy omega emitted at time t survives till t prime. Okay, so q omega of t prime is the survival probability. Then if you want to now remove this conditional probability, that assuming that it survives till t prime, okay, then the total probability that it will absorb between t prime and t prime plus dt prime will be given by multiplying this by that q omega of t prime, right? Because q omega of t prime is the probability that it has survived till t prime. Okay, so you multiply this q omega of t prime by this conditional probability. So this allows us to set up a differential equation for q. Okay, this tells us that dq omega t prime dt prime. This is how much q omega, how much q omega changes in time dt prime. That's what we're calculating here. So this is minus the rate of absorption but I mean I don't have to write this. I think it's clear from all the discussion that we had. So this is given by minus q omega of t prime times this probability over here. Okay, times this probability over here. So sigma omega lambda t over lambda t prime n1s t prime. C I am setting equal to 1 and q omega t prime already written. This minus sign because q omega will decrease with time. Right? So q omega was the probability that it has survived till time t prime. Right? And this is the probability that it will be absorbed between the time t prime and t prime plus dt prime. Okay, when you multiply by dt prime. So the net change in q omega from t prime to t prime plus dt prime will be given by minus of this times dt prime. That's what this differential equation represents. Okay, are there questions? Okay. So this is the first order differential equation. You can solve it, but we need a boundary condition. And the boundary condition is clear that q omega of t prime is 1 at t prime equal to t. So this allows us to write the solution q omega of t, q omega of, okay, I can write q omega of infinity, okay, because that's what we are after, right? The probability that the photon survives till time infinity. So this will be given by exponential, okay, just by solving this differential equation. Is given exponential minus integral t to infinity, and this as the integral. So dt prime q omega of t prime sigma omega lambda t over lambda t prime times n1s of t prime. Is this clear so far? Are there questions? Okay, so now I'm going to make a change of variables. So change variable. Is there a question?
I think there's no q omega in the integrand.
Sorry, yes, all right. There's a q omega in the integral. Yeah, because when you integrate this, of course, you just get the exponential of this. Yeah. Okay, any other question, comments? So what we're going to do now is to change variable from t prime. So from t prime to omega prime, which is omega times lambda t over lambda t prime. Okay, so this argument is what I'm calling omega prime, and instead of integrating over t prime, I'm going to integrate over this omega prime. Okay. So d omega prime, let's calculate d omega prime. Okay, I'm changing, so omega and t are fixed. Okay, so d omega prime will be given by omega times lambda t over lambda t prime square times lambda dot of t prime. So omega lambda t over lambda t prime is omega prime itself. So there's a minus sign here. So this is minus omega prime. Okay. And then you have lambda dot t prime over lambda t prime, that I'm going to call h of t prime. Okay, the expansion rate, Hubble constant at time t prime. Okay. Omega prime times h of t prime. Is this clear? And the limits, you can see that at t, when t prime is equal to t, omega prime was omega. And when t prime goes to infinity, okay, then lambda t of course goes to infinity, and this goes to 0. Okay, I mean, okay, you can say lambda, if we count till today, right, it's not quite infinity, but it's I mean, this ratio is not quite 0, but it's more or less 0, right? By the time lambda has gone to 1, it's lambda, this lambda t is of course very, very small. Okay. So we can take this integral from omega to infinity. Omega to 0, right? Because omega prime goes to 0 as you keep lambda t fixed and lambda t prime increases to 1. So you're going to use this to rewrite q omega. So q omega, q omega of infinity is exponential minus integral 0 to omega. Okay, this minus sign that he had in the change of variable in this change cancel with the fact that you have to switch the integration limits, right? Because infinity corresponds to 0 and t corresponds to omega. And then d omega prime, n1 is, let me still write as t prime. And then we have sigma of omega prime, okay, because the argument to change to omega prime. And then you have from the change of measure 1 over omega prime times h of t prime. Is this clear? Okay. Now recall that there is this formula for sigma of omega prime. So this was given by 3 pi squared gamma 2p over omega alpha square times p of omega prime. And p of omega prime is sharply peaked around omega prime equal to omega alpha. So because it's sharply peaked, what you are going to do, and t prime here you have to understand t prime as a function of omega prime. Okay, because t prime is, you had originally the integration variable was t prime, but you have changed it to omega prime. Okay, so you have to keep that in mind. But the point here is that because this p of omega prime is a sharply peaked function, what we can do is anything that is not varying rapidly over that scale, over that time scale, we can take out of the integral. Okay, and that's the criteria we are going to use. We are going to take out of the integral, replacing them by their central values. So we'll write this as exponential minus integral, sorry, let me take the constants out. So n1s at t, okay, because essentially we are going to be interested in omega, which is close to omega alpha. And that basically means that the value of t prime, okay, that we'll get is close to t. Okay. So physically what this means is the following. Okay, that imagine that you have gotten a photon that is of frequency omega that is emitted at time t. Okay. And omega is close to omega alpha. Okay. That photon is losing energy. Okay. And if it has to be absorbed at all by the 1s electron, okay, it better get absorbed, okay, before the energy starts differing from the original energy by order gamma 2p, right? Because once this difference becomes larger than gamma 2p, the probability of absorption is very low. Now, omega alpha is much larger than gamma 2p, and you start from an energy of order omega alpha, and then that gets scaled by this lambda over lambda prime, lambda of t over lambda of t prime ratio. Okay. So you see that the net change in lambda over lambda prime has to be very small, right? Because if it becomes of order 1, for example, then the energy changes by order omega alpha, right? And that's much larger than gamma 2. So the physics is that if the photon has to be absorbed at all, it better get absorbed more or less immediately, right? Very fast. And that's what is allowing us to replace this t prime, the smoothly varying arguments, by their starting point. So t prime we replace by t, and this omega prime and h of t prime, omega prime I replace by omega alpha. Okay, so 1 over omega alpha times h of t. Then I write this constant over here times 3 pi squared gamma 2p over omega alpha square, and then integral from 0 to omega d omega prime p omega prime. Is this clear? So this is, I should write nearly equal to, because we have made some approximation. Okay. So this is assuming that p omega prime is sharply peaked. Okay, other questions? So now we have to calculate P. Okay. So P, let me remind you, is the probability or P of t is the probability that a photon emitted at t by 2p to 1s transition is not absorbed by 2s to 1p, sorry, 1s to 2p transition. So this should be given by integral minus infinity to infinity p omega d omega q infinity of omega. Remember that these are implicitly functions of time, even though I have not written the time argument here. Okay, because clearly it depends on time, right? When the photon started. So this refers to the probability of survival of a photon of a particular frequency omega. Okay. And now we are using the fact that the Lyman alpha photon, okay, has a probability distribution that is given by p omega. Okay. So the total probability that a Lyman alpha photon, which is a photon emitted during this transition, 2p to 1s transition, the probability that is not absorbed is given by this formula over here. So I'm going to substitute the expression for q in omega of infinity that we have here in this. Are there questions? Okay, so now let me define something. So we define this whole quantity. Okay, just give it some name because that's what enters this formula. Let's call this x of t. So let me write the formula for p again. Okay, so p is given by integral minus infinity to infinity d omega p omega and then exponential minus x integral does omega to infinity p omega prime d omega prime. Is this okay so far? Okay, so p omega, let me write down the expression again, okay, because we are going to substitute. So this was gamma 2p over 2 pi and then 1 over omega minus omega alpha square plus gamma 2p over 2 whole square. Okay. So you substitute this here and it's most convenient to make some change of variables. Okay. So you'll introduce new variable. Okay. So change variable. To u we define as 2 over gamma 2p times omega minus omega alpha, and v is a similar expression with omega replaced by omega 2. 2 over gamma 2p times omega prime minus omega alpha. Okay, so we do this, and then this p can be written as 1 over pi integral minus infinity to infinity du 1 over u square plus 1. Okay, basically you can say the omega minus omega alpha is gamma 2p over 2 times u. Yes, if you make that substitution, that gamma 2, you get gamma 2p over 2 whole square in the denominator, and you get u square plus 1, and then you get one gamma 2p from here and another gamma 2p over 2 when you change variable from omega to u, right? D omega to du. So the gamma 2p over 2 whole square gets cancelled, and that's why you have this. And here you have exponential minus x integral. Okay, upper limit, there is a confusion, infinity. So 1 over v square plus 1 dv. And lower limit in this case is u. Right? Because when omega prime is equal to omega, then v is equal to u. Okay, so you get this exponential minus this.
So would you go back for a second?
Previous one, okay. Yes. This one we had defined as x of t, right?
What is q infinity of omega?
Q infinity of omega is that a photon of frequency omega that is produced at time t survives till time infinity. That means it's not absorbed by a 1s electron.
I mean, this is the same as what you have written downstairs, right? Like
This one.
in the last line, the q, like p of omega d omega q infinity sub index.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. This Q omega of infinity, yeah. Yeah. Was that a confusion?
No, and also like why is the integral in q omega is from 0 to omega?
Yes, it is from 0 to
Like,
omega. Did I write? Yeah, but I think I. Okay. Yeah, I think I made a mistake there. Maybe this was from 0 to omega. Let me just verify it one second. So as it was from t to infinity, when t prime is equal to infinity, then the argument is 0. So omega prime is 0. Indeed, it's from 0 to omega. Okay, so I think I made a mistake in the next slide. Yeah, it is from 0 to omega. So this is also from 0 to okay. Okay. So upper limit is u. Okay. Now the lower limit, if you look at omega prime equal to 0, then that's like v equal to minus omega alpha over gamma 2p. Okay. But this, because gamma 2p is much smaller than omega alpha, I can write it as minus infinity. Okay. So this strictly, this limit should have been minus 2 omega alpha over gamma 2p. But this is minus, this number is very large. Okay, and that's why I replaced it with minus infinity. Thank you. I think this is correct. I mean, the expressions that I had written down. Yes. So that this was not correct. Yeah, this is correct. Is this clear? Okay, so if you just follow this argument, so at omega prime equal to 0, when omega prime is equal to 0, okay, the v is minus 2 omega alpha over gamma 2p, but that I can replace with minus infinity because gamma 2p is very small. Okay. Are there questions, comments? So this actually is an elementary integral you can easily do. Right? This integral is what you this is tan inverse u. Let me. This is tan inverse u plus pi by 2. Right? Because that this is tan inverse v, and tan inverse of minus infinity is minus pi by 2. So it becomes tan inverse u plus pi by 2. And then you can easily do this integral. You can change variable. Change variable. Say s equal to tan inverse u. So this becomes ds, right? d over u square plus 1. This becomes ds, and this is exponential of minus x times s plus pi by 2. Okay, so this integral you can easily do, and I'll write down the final answer, but it's just straightforward to verify. So, exercise. Is that p is equal to f of xt, where f of x is given by 1 over x times 1 minus e to the minus x. Okay, so I'll leave this as an exercise for you to check. Yeah, this pi by 2 is okay because that's what will give, cancel this 1 over pi. I think I'm missing some 1 over pi somewhere. Let me just check. Yeah, I think there is a 1 over pi in this formula which is missing. Let me correct that. So this is minus x over pi. Okay, because you see there is a p omega has a 1 over pi, right? That pi is not cancelled against anything. So this is actually x over pi. And this 1 over pi you also see over here. Okay, so this is the correct formula. And then after you do this integral using this formula, you'll get what I wrote here. So let me write down the formula for x again, okay, because then you can find the physical interpretation of all this. This is 3 pi squared n1s of t over omega alpha cube h of t. Okay, let's check that omega alpha of t cube is fine. Where did we define x? Yeah, because there's a 1 omega alpha here and one omega alpha squared, right? Omega alpha cube h of t and 3 pi square gamma 2p and n1s. Okay, that's what I have written. And gamma 2p. So let's just make some observations on this formula. So the first observation you can see is that if h of t is 0, okay, that means if the universe was not expanding, then x is infinity. And if x is equal to infinity, then f is 0. Okay. So this means that if the universe was not expanding, there's no chance of survival. Okay. Because if you wait for long enough, then eventually somehow 1s electron will absorb the photon. Okay. So the only reason that we are getting this non-zero, non-trivial answer fx, okay, is because of the expansion of the universe, because the expansion of the universe is driving the energy down. Okay. And indeed, you can see that the larger h is, okay, the smaller x is, and the smaller x is, the larger is fx. Okay. In fact, as x goes to 0, okay, you can see from here, right, that f of x as x goes to 0 actually goes to 1. So if the universe was expanding very fast, right, then the energy will fall rapidly, and then the chance of absorption becomes less. Okay, it will just with unit probability it survives. Okay. Whereas if x is infinity, that means if h is 0, okay, then the chance of survival falls. Okay, it goes to 0 eventually if the universe was not expanding. The second point we see is that X increases with N1s. Okay, and if X increases, that means Fx falls. Okay, we can easily verify that this is a decreasing function of X. So then that means Fx decreases, P, which is Fx decreases with N1s. And again, this is not surprising, because if the number of N1s atoms are small, then of course the absorption probability will be small, right? And P should be close to 1. On the other hand, if N1s is large, then the absorption probability is large, and the P should be close to 0. Okay, and that's what you see here. So in fact, from this one can also conclude the physics of the formation. So you see, we saw that the two major sources of the 1s atom formation was, one is from 2p to 1s plus gamma. The other one was from 2s to 1s plus gamma. So this one certainly is much faster. Okay, so gamma 2p is much larger because that it involves a single photon. Okay, this includes one extra power of electromagnetic coupling, so it's suppressed. So this one dominates initially. But as the number of 1s atoms build up, okay, because of this transition, this process becomes slower. Okay, this process becomes slower precisely because of this Fx factor, because now the gammas that are being produced are getting absorbed by 1s atoms that have been produced earlier. Okay, and the chance of the gamma to survive becomes less. So this one dominates near the end, dominates at late time. And that's also the reason why the process is slow. Okay, because this is a slower process. Okay? So it slows down the rate of formation of the 1s atoms. Okay, because the process which was efficient earlier, okay, becomes less efficient as the number of 1s atoms build up. Are there questions? Okay. So let me now briefly describe the calculation of P bar. Okay, I'll maybe not do all the calculations because the calculations are very similar. But I'll just describe what is involved. So calculation of P bar. Okay, so now I'm going to define P bar appropriately. So let's suppose that F omega d omega is the number density of thermal photons in the range omega and omega plus d omega assuming no absorption. The standard normal thermal spectrum. No absorption by 1s. Then the probability that the probability per unit time that a 1s atom makes transition to 2p by absorbing a thermal photon, assuming no prior absorption. This will be given by integral sigma omega f omega d omega. Right, because this was the absorption probability. The velocity is 1. Okay. Now we are thinking of this from the point of view of the atom. Okay, that a single atom, what is the probability it will make a transition? So you don't have any number density of atoms in this game. Instead, what you have is a number density of photons, right? That's the f omega that you have introduced. So this is what we'll call pi naught. So we'll also define, okay, and calculate pi. Okay, we define pi as the probability per unit time for a thermal photon to cause 1s to 2p transition, assuming, not assuming, by taking into account prior absorption effects. Okay. So you expect pi to be less than pi naught because the prior absorption effects essentially reduces the density of thermal photons. Okay. And that's why that we expect pi to be less than pi naught. Okay. And then p bar will be defined as a ratio of pi by pi naught. Okay. So the pi naught was assuming that there is no prior absorption, and p bar, if you remember, was essentially taking into account the fact that thermal photons get depleted because of the prior absorption. Right? So this ratio is what is a precise definition of p bar. Okay. So we'll now calculate this ratio. So let's do that. So first we calculate pi naught, which is easy. So pi naught is by definition integral minus infinity to infinity sigma omega f omega d omega. So sigma omega was 3 pi square gamma 2p over omega alpha square integral minus infinity to infinity and now we are going to use the fact that p omega is sharply peaked, f omega is smooth, to write this as 3 pi square gamma 2p over omega alpha square f of omega alpha, and then this becomes integral minus infinity to infinity p omega d omega. D is of course 1. Okay, so then this is the formula for pi naught. Okay, that's the easy part of the calculation. And now we are going to turn to calculation of pi. Okay. And as we will see, this calculation goes more or less in the same way as the calculation of p, okay, except that now we are looking in the past. Okay, we are asking what is the probability it was not absorbed in the past, rather than what is the probability it was not absorbed in the future. Right? So that's the only difference. Okay, but otherwise the calculation will go more or less in the same way. So some more definition. Okay, so this is the probability that we are saying that let's take a thermal photon of energy omega. And what is the probability that it has survived from minus infinity to t? Okay, because that's what we want to make use of this. Okay, the thermal photon at time t. Okay. And once you calculate q omega, then you have to fold it with f omega, right? Because that was the thermal distribution function. So this q omega, okay, I'll write down the formula and that will become clear how it comes, because it's exactly the same kind of formula that we got. Okay. So the claim is that this is given by this exponential of minus integral minus infinity to t dt prime n1s of t prime sigma omega lambda t over lambda t prime. So this is exact analog of the capital Q omega that we had found, except that here you are doing things in the past rather than in the future. Yeah, see, it's exactly the analog of this formula. Well, this was already written in terms of omega prime, so let me write this. Yeah, so it's the analog of this formula, okay, that we have here. Okay. So what is the difference? That here you integrate from t to infinity, okay, because we produce at t and we want to survive till infinity. There we said that we want it to exist at t. Okay. So you want to calculate what is the survival probability from minus infinity to t. So now we play exactly the same game. We change variable. Omega prime as omega times lambda t over t prime, lambda t prime. And using that we get q omega of t. Okay, again we use the smoothness argument to take out things out, to take things out of the integral. Okay, anything that is smooth. So you'll get minus 3 pi square gamma 2p over omega alpha square. This comes from the sigma, and then you get a factor of omega alpha h of t from the change of variable. And now you have from omega to infinity. Okay, let's check if this is correct or not. So let's see. So when t prime is equal to t, then of course omega prime is omega. And when t prime is minus infinity, then lambda t prime is 0. And then this becomes omega infinity, right? That's why you have the integral from omega to infinity. In the previous case, if you remember, the integral was running from 0 to omega. Okay, so here it's from omega to infinity. Okay. So now let's recall that what is the definition of pi. So pi is the probability that a thermal photon keeping track of the absorption effects. Cause transition from a 1s to 2p. So this is given by integral minus infinity to infinity d omega f omega. So this was the distribution. Then you have to multiply by q omega of t, because this is a survival probability, okay, up to time t. And then you multiply by sigma omega. Okay? That's the cross section, the problem, the cross section of this process. So this, again, if you use the fact that sigma omega, okay, you express sigma omega in terms of p omega, and then you use the fact that it's sharply peaked, so that many things can be taken out. So then you get this to be 3 pi square gamma 2p over omega alpha square. F we take out of the integral, so f of omega alpha. And then integral minus infinity to infinity. I replace sigma by p, right? That's why this factor came out. So p omega d omega. And for q, I'm going to use exponential of minus. You see this quantity over here? This is exactly what we had called x earlier. So minus x minus x times integral omega to infinity p omega prime d omega prime. So this is very similar to the formula that we had found earlier. Okay, if you remember, the only difference was that there the integral was running from minus infinity to omega. Here it's from omega to infinity. Okay. And you can analyze this integral by making exactly the same kind of change of variables that we did there. Okay. And then leave it as an exercise to check that this is given by the same formula f of x of t, which is p. So essentially, the p of t and p bar of t are equal, okay, even though the integrals are a little different. Here it's running from omega to infinity because you are integrating in the past, whereas there it was running from minus infinity to omega because you are integrating in the future. But at the end, the integral gives the same result, and you get the p bar and the p to be the same. So this more or less finishes the calculation of p and p bar. Okay. So now, in a sense, we see that we have all the ingredients that we need for solving the differential equation. Okay, because the three things, the sigma, gamma 2p and gamma 2s are calculated microscopically, or you can use experimentally measured values. Everything else that we need has been explicitly calculated in terms of things that we know. And so now the idea is that we simply substitute in the equation and integrate them. So tomorrow I'll discuss a little more about the integrating the equations as well as some definitions, because ultimately we need to decide as to which surface we call the last scattering surface, right? In other words, how low should the density be so that we can say that there is no further scattering, and we'll try to use some precise definitions tomorrow to see how we characterize the last scattering surface. I think I'll stop here today. Are there questions?
Sir, I have something from relative GR.
Okay, go ahead.
I mean, not really cosmology, so maybe I can ask in the end.
Okay, okay.
I think there's a vector of f omega alpha extra as compared to the last equation.
Oh,
right?
yeah, I agree. I'm sorry, this is pi, right? Ultimately, I have to calculate pi over, so this should be f omega alpha. and we had this, I think there may be some other factors also. Yeah, so I think this factor will also be extra. Okay, so I'll leave this as an exercise. Yeah, this factor I think is also extra. So let me. So what you want to show is that this is pi naught times f of xt. Okay, where pi naught had this factor. So this means that p bar, which is by definition pi over pi naught, that is given by f of xt. Is this okay? Right, I think this factor was precisely pi naught, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so once you divide by this, it reduces to the previous expression except for this change of limits. Okay. Any other question, comments? Okay, so I'll stop this and I'll stop the recording also.